tell me some of the things that you're thinking about or questions that you might have when it comes to buying or even just riding in a private jet.
Sure. And so some of it too, it's like where do we find that break even point? And I know
Hmm.
part of it is you have to have a strong handle on what the value is of your own personal time. Because I think if you just straight do dollars and cents, it's never going to be make fiscal sense to do it
Hmm.
that way. But when you start factoring in what is the cost of my time and my sanity, frankly, where does that roll in? But I guess I'm trying to look. Where are most of your clients looking to say, okay, this is kind of my break even point, and whether it be a number of people, because I have heard like, hey, if I was going to fly several family members down, take a 6 hour trip, and I was going to pay for them all to be in first class, it might actually make sense or be just as feasible to take a private jet
Yeah.
instead. So
Yeah,
how do you
sure.
help clients determine what does that break even point look like?
Yeah, well, obviously, like you said, knowing the value of your time is extremely important, but also knowing the value of your time and the activity that you're going to do. So if you're going to go, close a multi-million dollar deal that's going to net you, a couple hundred grand, well, then spending 20, 30, 40 grand to travel there and back, I mean, you can make sense of that,
Sure.
pretty quickly based on the deal that you're trying to do. So if you're playing at that high level, I mean, you can kind of look at it from a deal perspective. But usually, what I'll tell people, the first place you want to get started is going to be your chartering. So for a single trip, right? And your single trip is going to be anywhere from plan on spending, let's say, 10,000 to, I mean, you could spend 100 grand on a round trip. We spent, my family and I, to give you an example, it's my wife, myself, and we have 5 children,
Oh wow.
13 and younger. Yeah. So we were planning a family trip last year to go to Gatlinburg. And so we flew from Sarasota, Florida to Gatlinburg. And that was about a $15,000 round trip. And we did it primarily for the experience. Not that we could afford that like on a regular basis or anything, but we wanted to experience that time together. And at the same time that we did that trip, my in-laws were coming with us. They decided to fly commercial. So we were able to wake up, get to the airport whenever we wanted, drive the car to the plane, get it loaded up, make sure we use the bathroom, head up there. It's like an hour and 45-minute flight. My kid got to sit in the cockpit, so he got to fly, which is pretty cool. We got to relax. We got there before lunchtime. Our rental car was waiting for us. We just took the luggage from the plane to the rental car. We went, we grabbed lunch. We had a whole extra day at the cabin, not to mention the fact that the airport we flew into was about 20 minutes away from the cabin. So we got a whole extra day of vacation. My wife's family had to leave their house before us because they had an hour plus drive to the airport. They had to get there 3 hours early, to make sure that everything was in order, get through security. They had to sit there, wait. They had to fly all the way out to Tennessee. Their airport was over an hour away. They had to pick up the rental car. Yep, they had to go pick up their bags, wait for that. They had to go to the rental car, wait for that. Then they had to drive over an hour away. They didn't get home to the cabin until about midnight. So they lost an entire day of vacation. And then you fast forward to the end of the vacation. Again, we got to leave whenever we wanted, enjoy breakfast. We had a 20-minute drive to the airport, got in the plane. We flew. We were able to take my wife's sister and her baby with us because they were feeling a little under the weather, and we just didn't want to put them through the nightmare of commercial flying. So they came with us. That was a lot of fun. I got to fly in the cockpit on that one, so that was cool. And we got home before dinner. Like we were literally in our house before dinner, and we could relax and decompress and roll into, regular life. Which when you're coming in from vacation, like you have to decompress for like a week sometimes because of
Yeah.
how the travel is. It costs us $15,000 to charter. We got 2 extra days of vacation and enjoyed that time together. So everybody kind of has to make, the valuation of their time on their own. But to me, that just made a lot of sense for us to have that experience of chartering an aircraft. And that's kind of where I tell people to start. Charter 1 or 2 flights, see what you think about private aviation. Stay chartering for about 50 hours a year. Once you're at 50 to 100 hours a year, maybe you look into fractional ownership or some kind of a jet card. Once you get to 100 hours a year, maybe you're thinking about owning 150, 200 hours a year. It's going to make more sense for you to own the aircraft. And so that's kind of how I kind of lay it out to people.
Well, and I guess I'd probably look at it. So you're saying that the cost, the Gatlinburg to Sarasota round trip, was about 15K to charter the jet. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, really, and I'd venture to say that that 15K is actually, more like 12.5, because if you didn't charter, you're going to have to turn around. You're going to have to buy plane tickets because your in-laws had to buy plane tickets on commercial, right?
Yep.
And so when
Yep.
you
We
talk
went
about,
about.
5, 7 people that you got to have to buy plane tickets for, and then that's not even factoring in first class. That's probably coach. I mean, if you bought them all first class tickets, you're probably looking, the actual true cost to you was under 10K at that point, to have
Yeah.
those extra days.
Well, that's just it, right? And you look at it, if you have 7 adults that can, split costs. I mean, we're talking $2,000, a pop for you and your family to fly, if they can all
Right.
kind of pay for themselves.